RT is sitting down with Richard Mack, a retired sheriff from Arizona who made national headlines in 1994 when he filed a lawsuit against the federal government. Since then, he's been encouraging state law enforcement officials to rise up against federal agents. Thank you very much for sitting down to speak with me today, Sheriff Mack.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be in New York.
You call yourself a freedom activist. You have spoken at more than 50 tea parties around the country, demonstrations that some in America charge are racially motivated. What has been your message to the hundreds and thousands of people that have shown up at these tea parties?
Well, ironically, I use Rosa Parks as an example of what we're supposed to do against stupid laws. I think Rosa Parks is a hero. I think what she did in standing against the laws of the time back in 1958, she was arrested in America, albeit Alabama, yes, but it's still America. And the bus driver had her thrown off the bus and arrested because she refused to give her seat to a white man. She was booked into jail on stuff like that. And I say that the sheriff, a true constitutional sheriff, would not have arrested her, would have sat down next to her, would have shaken her hand, and congratulated her for displaying such courage in the face of the entire community being against her, at least the white community and law enforcement being against her. And I say a constitutional sheriff today will protect me from nationalized health care or all the incursions and tyranny of a federal government or even a state government.
You were in law enforcement for 20 years and you were a sheriff in Arizona for 8 years. And you argue that the sheriff is the most powerful law enforcement official in the United States, more powerful than the president.
Yes.
Explain that to me.
Well, first of all, it might be apples and oranges because the sheriff has a different assignment than the president. But the bottom line is the president of the United States cannot tell your sheriff what to do. The president is not the boss of your elected sheriff. And the reason the sheriff is such a powerful position is because he is the only law enforcement officer in the United States or in the county that's elected by, for, and of the people. And all power in America comes from that source.
But that's not
we
how
the
America
people.
Runs right now.
Because other tyrants have stolen power. And it's not how they're run, but it's supposed to be how they're run. And James Madison said we can safely rely on the disposition of state legislatures to erect barriers against the encroachments of the federal government. So the last line of defense in making sure that happens is your county sheriff.
You sit on the board of a group called Oath Keepers.
Yes.
That is a group of law enforcement officials, military servicemen and women that you say are now committed to upholding the oath that they have taken to defend the Constitution.
Isn't that a novel idea? We actually keep our word. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
But why do you believe that the Constitution is being violated?
Well, because it is every day. I mean, if you read the Constitution, when I was a rookie cop, I made a huge mistake. I actually read the Constitution, and specifically the Bill of Rights. And I saw on one hand what the Constitution says. I saw on the other hand what the government is actually doing. I mean, you actually said it yourself. When you say that things aren't run this way anymore, that isn't how things are done in government, because we don't follow the Constitution. Yet we have everybody stand up there. The president, on January 20th, will take an oath when he first takes office that he will uphold and preserve the United States Constitution. And the very next day he commits perjury because he doesn't do it. And he's not alone. I mean, Nancy Pelosi doesn't keep her oath. She doesn't care about the Constitution. Harry Reid doesn't care about the Constitution.
Why is all of this uprising being seen when President Barack Obama enters the White House? Where were Americans, your fellow Tea Parties, and the sheriffs when George W. Bush was sitting in the White House for 8 years?
I've been saying this about Bush and Clinton. I've been saying this the last 20 years.
But how about the rest of the Americans that are turning out at all these Tea Parties?
Okay, but it's a valid question, and it's a good question, and it's a real phenomenon that exists And the uprising did start big time with Barack Obama. There's no question that this uprising, though, was happening during Clinton and Bush. But
not on the level that
but not at the level we see. No, no question about it. No question about it. I did speaking tours before this, but not at the pace I'm doing it now. I mean, I'm speaking 2 or 3 times a week all across America, and
does it have
that's
anything
never
to do with
happened
the
before.
fact that we have a black president now?
No, I have never seen that. I have never seen. Now, I've been there, and I'm sure there's some racism here in America. I have never seen it at any of the 50 or some odd 60 events I've been to. The reason, and I want you and everybody listening in America to know and understand, it's because of Barack Obama's policies. He took the abuse of the Bush administration, he took the abuse of the Clinton administration to the 10th power. I'm going to tell you right now, for the record, I will never take nationalized socialistic Barack Obamacare ever. And if he wants to come and arrest me, tell him to come on. I'll give you my address, because I'm not taking it.
I don't think I'm going to be speaking to him anytime soon, but if he's watching RT, he'll get your message. He should be watching it.
This is one of the best news agencies around.
I want to ask you specifically about the uprising that is being seen between local and state officials and federal officials that are now entering states. And
you know what I call that? I call that finally state and local officials doing their jobs.
It recently happened in Nevada, and a sheriff from one of the counties there posted a YouTube video and said himself that a civil war could break out in this country due to the tension and the conflict that is growing between local officials and federal officials.
Yeah, isn't that scary?
Can a civil war break out?
I think it can.
That's not an exaggeration?
No, I don't think it is. But my message is if the sheriffs of this country, and local officials as well, but not just sheriffs, but chiefs of police and peace officers and county commissioners and county attorneys, especially the sheriffs, working together with the sheriffs, we will keep this peaceful. Is the only way left to keep it peaceful. If we have citizens standing, I mean, you've heard citizens say, I know you've heard citizens, you've been around, guys who, these rednecks that have guns, and I'm one of them. I've said it. You know, I wrote a book called From My Cold Dead Fingers, Why America Needs Guns. Government can't take my gun unless I've done something wrong. And you've heard citizens say, they'll take my gun from my cold dead fingers. They'll take it one bullet at a time or whatnot. What are we going to do to prevent people when the government comes in and tries to confiscate guns? Now, Tony DeMeo, Sheriff DeMeo,
believe in no gun control,
except for violent felons. Yeah, people. But you see, the Supreme Court just ruled that we have the right to keep and bear arms now. It's an individual right. They just, in McDonald versus Chicago, they ruled in our favor.
This rising tension that is taking place right now between local law enforcement officials and federal officials, do you think it's going to get worse?
No, I think it's actually going to get better. I think the states, just as Arizona is doing now with the immigration issue, are going to put the federal government in its place. The federal government has overplayed their hand. They have made it very clear they're not going to do their jobs to protect our borders. Don't you find it the epitome of hypocrisy that the federal government claims that we need to risk lives in Afghanistan and Iraq because we have a war on terror, but they refuse to secure our borders? You cannot have a war on terror and not secure your borders. So Arizona now says, you're not doing your job. We will protect ourselves because we are an independent and sovereign state.
Which they can't yet do.
Well, Judge Bolton's ruling had nothing to do with the Constitution. She didn't even quote anything from the Constitution. She just said, this is a bad idea. That's not her job, to give her opinion about whether or not this would be good or bad. Her job is to follow the Constitution. She did nothing of the sort. And yes, the state of Arizona is still going to protect itself. You don't need a judge's
Do you think
permission.
They're going to bypass the judge?
They already are. They already are. And my ruling on the 10th Amendment has been bypassed and ignored by the United States Congress. Have they gotten in trouble? The Supreme Court has no enforcement arm. Actually, the President of the United States is supposed to enforce my case against the federal government. They don't do it. Clinton didn't do it. In fact, Clinton hid this decision from the American people.
So what option are you left with now?
State sovereignty. The only solution that we have left. is state sovereignty. Local control, the sheriffs of this country getting together with county commissioners, county attorneys, and standing, fighting, and erecting the barriers against the encroachments of the national government, the federal government.
That could lead to anarchy. I mean, mass uprising.
No, it will lead to lawful consideration and lawful adherence to the Constitution. If we follow the Constitution, we're going to be fine. We're not in trouble, Marina, because we're following the Constitution too closely. Far from it. We're destroying the Constitution, and our own federal government is the greatest threat to our God-given constitutional American Republic. If we make sure they stay within their perimeters and their limitations, then we're going to survive this. If the federal government doesn't stay within their prescribed limitations in the Constitution, then this is only the beginning.
Sheriff Mack, thank you very much for sitting down and speak with me.
Marina, thanks for having me.